Hi everyone, and welcome to this Fan Art Friday video. In this video I'm going to be working on a drawing of Link from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I'm really excited about this game coming out soon. I'm already a huge Zelda fan. Some of my earliest and fondest gaming memories include Ocarina of Time on the N64, and I remember desperately wanting the N64 purely just to play that game. And I remember playing through that game with my cousin, and it was just such an awesome experience. After that, there was then the Wind Waker on the GameCube. I remember that one specifically because the artwork is just so beautiful in that game. A really awesome world to explore. And now with Breath of the Wild coming up, the game looks amazing. The stuff we've seen so far, the open world, I just really can't wait to check it out. For this drawing, I decided to try my own style, similar in process and layout to some of the anime drawings that I worked on last year. And for the outlines, I used a mixture of a Pigma Micron 05 and my Copic Multiliner SP 0.03mm. I added thicker lines to his eyes and to the outlines of his face, and then changed up the line weight, especially to areas around the hair, adding thicker lines to the undersides of those areas, and then adding highlighted finer lines on top. And then I also added the hood to this drawing. We've seen the hood featured in some images and in the collectible figures. They've shown Link wearing this awesome looking hood, so I really wanted to add that to this drawing. After working on the outlines, it was time for the colouring, and for the colouring of this drawing I used Copic Markers, starting off with the colouring of Link's skin tones. And I used my preferred markers for this, starting with the base layer of colour with a pinkish white marker, and after placing that down I then added some shading over the top of it with a pale grape marker. And then to blend between these two, I used a pale heath marker over the top of them, to blend between them but to also add a warmer tone to the skin tones overall. After that, to add some darker shading, I used a light grape marker, adding some outlines around the outside of the face and to add some shading underneath the hair. I wanted to add some even warmer tones around his eyes, nose and lips, so for this I used a blush marker as well, and then blended it in with the pale heath marker. Then, to add some faint highlights going around the outside of his face and to the underside of his nose, I used a white Prismacolor pencil. And then to add some even brighter highlights to his nose and lips, I used a Uni-Ball Signo Broad white ink pen. For the blue colouring of his eyes, I used 4 different markers, starting off with the darkest shading first with the Prussian blue, and then blended downwards with a process blue and a sky blue, and then for the highlighted section at the bottom of each eye, I used a robin's egg blue. To also add some extra details to the eyes and really make them stand out, I chose to use an ultramarine and a white Prismacolor pencil. And then for the whites of the eyes, I added shading with a cool grey 3 and 5, and then finally added highlights to the eyes with the highlighter pen. I used the same skin colour process for the colouring of his ear, and then used an aqua marker to add that really bright greeny blue, like turquoise colouring to his earring. And then added highlights to those areas with the white Prismacolor pencil and the Uni-Ball highlighter pen. And after that, it was time to add the colouring to the hair. And I was actually really looking forward to working on the colouring of the hair in this drawing. I wanted to add lots of shading to the right side and then add some really bright highlighting on the left side, and I wanted to add this real contrast between those two areas. So I started with the base layers first, just getting an idea of the way the hair was flowing, and for this I used 3 different markers, those being a buttercup yellow, a brick beige and eggshell. After that, I started adding shading to the right side of his head, using a mixture of warm grey 3 and 5, blending between the two and adding the darker shading to the undersides of some of the locks of hair, and just trying to add some more depth to those areas. And to also add some more highlights and to add outlines around some of the streaks of hair, I used a mixture of the white Prismacolor pencil, and also added some bright highlighting with the Uni-Ball highlighter pen around the front of the hair and adding kind of a ring of highlights in a kind of an anime style. Moving on from the colouring of the hair, I wanted to add colouring to his hood, and I started with a base layer of colour with a light hydrangea, and then over the top of that I added hydrangea blue, adding shading to the undersides of some of the folds in the fabric, and then for the inside of the hood I added darker colouring with a deep reddish blue. For the final stage of this drawing, I wanted to add a blurred background within the comic panel that I added, and I started by adding some colour to the sky with the light hydrangea to match the hood, and then I added some mountains with a cool grey 3, and then in the foreground I added some grass with a pale cobalt green. I then used the highlighter pen to add some highlights going around Link and also to add some particle effects in the background. And actually I wasn't too happy with the shading of his hair. I felt like it was a bit too flat, so I started adding some darker shading to this area with a warm grey number 7, just adding some darker shading to undersides of some of the locks of hair, and just to generally add some more shape to that area, and hopefully that worked out. After that I also used a carmine red and a lilac Prismacolor pencil to add some more colours of particles in the background, and after that this drawing was completed. Overall, this drawing took about 3 hours to complete, and please let me know what you think of this drawing in the comments below. I really had a lot of fun working on it and trying a different style, kind of similar to the anime drawings that I worked on last year. It was nice to try something like this again, so let me know what you think, and if you have any suggestions for future fan art or fantasy art, any suggestions are hugely appreciated and they really do help the channel. If you want to see more drawing videos, then make sure you're subscribed, and any likes or shares on this video are hugely appreciated and it really does mean a lot to me. If you want to follow my progress and keep up to date with everything I'm working on, then be sure to check out the links in the description box below to check out my Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And once again, thank you so much for the support on this channel, and thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I'll see you all soon.